Have you ever looked someone in the eyes and realized they had stolen your entire life? Not your money. Not your house. Your identity. Your future. Your name. My own sister didn't just betray me, she became me. She opened credit cards in my name, drained my savings, signed loans with my signature, and convinced everyone that I was the liar. By the time I discovered the truth, my career was gone, my apartment was gone, and the police were knocking on my door instead of hers. The worst part wasn't losing everything. It was watching my own family choose her over me. Every tear I cried, every word I spoke, they believed was another excuse. I was completely alone. For 2 long years, she lived my life while I fought to survive. She smiled at family dinners while I stood in unemployment lines. She called me unstable, and everyone believed her. Then fate made one tiny mistake. A forgotten security camera, covered in dust, recorded less than 3 minutes of footage. 3 minutes that exposed years of lies, fraud, and betrayal. The moment that video played in court, my sister's face turned white. My parents couldn't look at me. The detective froze. And for the first time, the truth had a witness. By the end of that trial, she didn't just lose her freedom. She lost the family she manipulated, the fortune she stole, and the identity she spent years pretending was hers. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about what happens when the one person you trusted most decides to destroy you, and how one forgotten camera changed everything. I'm Emma Carter, and this is the day my sister learned that no lie can hide from the truth forever. The perfect sister. The funny thing about betrayal is that it never arrives looking like betrayal. It smiles at you over breakfast. It remembers your birthday. It hugs you when you're crying. It tells everyone how much it loves you. And sometimes, it shares your last name. Growing up, everyone thought my sister, Olivia, was perfect. She was 3 years older than me, beautiful without trying, confident in every room she walked into, and somehow always knew exactly what people wanted to hear. Teachers adored her. Neighbors couldn't stop talking about how polite she was. Even strangers seemed drawn to her charm. Whenever someone met us for the first time, they always said the same thing. "You're Olivia's little sister? You're so lucky." Back then, I believed them. I wanted to be like her. I copied the way she dressed, laughed at the same jokes, even chose some of the same hobbies because I thought she was the smartest person I knew. If Olivia told me the sky was green, I probably would have gone outside to check. That's how much I trusted her. Our parents didn't help. My father, Robert Carter, always called Olivia his little champion. My mother, Linda, loved us both, but there was never any doubt who made her proud. Olivia earned praise. I earned comparisons. Why can't you be more outgoing like your sister? Look how organized Olivia is. Your sister always knows what she's doing. At first, those comments didn't hurt. I figured they were right. Maybe Olivia really was better than me. Maybe I just needed to work harder. So I did. While Olivia enjoyed parties and popularity, I buried myself in books. I wasn't the loudest person in school. I wasn't the prettiest. I wasn't the funniest. But I was dependable. If someone needed help, I showed up. If I made a promise, I kept it. If I loved someone, I loved them completely. Eventually, those qualities paid off. After graduating from college, I landed a financial analyst position at one of the fastest-growing investment firms in Chicago. The salary wasn't unbelievable, but it was enough. Enough to rent my own apartment. Enough to buy my first car. Enough to finally stop asking my parents for help. For the first time in my life, I felt independent. I built everything myself. Every paycheck felt like proof that I wasn't living in Olivia's shadow anymore. Ironically, Olivia seemed happier for me than anyone else. She was the first person to congratulate me. The first person to send flowers to my apartment. The first person to tell everyone how proud she was. Looking back now, I realize she wasn't celebrating my success. She was studying it. At the time, Olivia worked in luxury retail. She had expensive taste. Designer handbags. Weekend trips. Fancy restaurants. Clothes that cost more than my monthly grocery bill. No one questioned how she could afford any of it. She always had an answer. I got a bonus. A client tipped me. It was on sale. She said everything with such confidence that doubting her almost felt rude. That's what made Olivia dangerous. She never sounded dishonest. She sounded believable. Our relationship actually became stronger after I moved out. She'd visit my apartment almost every weekend. We'd order takeout, watch old movies, laugh about childhood memories. Sometimes she'd help me organize my paperwork because she claimed she loved being organized. Bills. Bank statements. Insurance documents. Tax papers. She'd neatly place everything into folders while teasing me about how messy I was. Emma, she'd laugh, one day you'll lose something important if you don't get organized. I always laughed back. That's why I have you. If only I knew. One Saturday afternoon, while we were drinking coffee on my balcony, Olivia asked me something that seemed completely harmless. What's your credit score now? I laughed. Why? I'm just curious. Mine finally went over 700. I shrugged. Last time I checked, around 800. She smiled. But it wasn't a normal smile. It lasted just a second too long. Then she quickly looked away. I ignored it. A few minutes later she asked another question. Do you still bank with First National? Yeah. Same account since college? Yep. That's convenient. Convenient. Such an innocent word. I had no idea it would haunt me later. Over the following months, Olivia became strangely interested in my finances. Not obviously. Subtly. Almost professionally. She'd ask whether I had changed passwords. Whether I still received paper bank statements. Whether my company offered identity theft protection. At the time, I thought she was simply looking out for me. She always framed her questions as concern. The world's getting dangerous, Emma. People steal identities all the time. Promise me you'll be careful. The irony still makes me sick. The thief was warning me about thieves. One evening, our parents invited us over for dinner. Everything felt normal. Dad grilled steaks in the backyard. Mom made her famous mashed potatoes. Olivia joked with everyone while I helped clean the kitchen. It was one of those rare nights where I looked around the table and thought, maybe life is finally good. Maybe we've all grown up. Maybe our family is stronger than ever. Then my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Credit alert. A new credit inquiry has been made using your social security number. I frowned. That's strange. I hadn't applied for anything. I opened the notification, but before I could read the details, Olivia walked into the kitchen. You okay? She asked. I quickly locked my phone. Yeah, probably just spam. She looked at me for a second. Then smiled. The banks send weird alerts all the time. I nodded. You're probably right. I slipped the phone back into my pocket. I should have checked it. I should have called the bank immediately. I should have trusted my instincts. Instead, I finished dinner. Laughed with my family. Hugged my sister goodbye. And drove home believing everything was fine. I didn't know that while I was smiling for family photos, someone had already started stealing my life. And the person sitting beside me at the dinner table already knew exactly how the story was going to end. The first signs of betrayal. The first crack in my life didn't sound like an explosion. It sounded like a ringtone. 3 days after that family dinner, I was sitting at my desk, finishing a quarterly financial report. My phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I ignored unknown callers. For some reason, I answered. Hello? Good afternoon. May I speak with Emma Carter? This is Emma. Ms. Carter, this is Kevin from First National Bank's Fraud Prevention Department. We're calling to verify a recent application for a $35,000 personal loan. I laughed. I'm sorry, what? The personal loan application submitted yesterday. There has to be a mistake. The man became quiet. So, you're saying you didn't apply for financing? No. Have you authorized anyone to apply on your behalf? Absolutely not. Ms. Carter, I'm going to recommend that we immediately freeze the application while our fraud team investigates. My heart started racing. How did someone even apply? I'm afraid I can't discuss that over an unsecured line. I'd recommend visiting your local branch today. By the time I hung up, my hands were shaking. I tried convincing myself it was just a clerical error. Someone must have typed the wrong social security number. It happened all the time. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. That afternoon, I left work early and drove straight to the bank. The branch manager welcomed me into his office with a serious expression. He turned his monitor toward me. Ms. Carter, are these your details? My name. My social security number. My date of birth. Everything was correct. Then he opened the application. Address. Correct. Employer. Correct. Annual salary. Correct. Emergency contact. Correct. Everything matched. Except the signature. It looked almost identical to mine. Almost. Someone had practiced it. Over. And over. Until they got close enough to fool a computer. Have you shared personal information with anyone? The manager asked. I shook my head. No. Anyone in your family? Again. I shook my head. No. The word left my mouth so quickly that I didn't even think about it. Of course not. Why would I? Family doesn't steal from family. Right? The bank rejected the loan before any money was released. I should have felt relieved. Instead, something felt wrong. Whoever did this knew too much. They knew my salary. My employer. My banking history. Information strangers shouldn't have. I changed every password I owned that night. Banking. Email. Investment accounts. Even streaming services. I enabled two-factor authentication on everything. I told myself the nightmare was over before it even started. I couldn't have been more wrong. 2 weeks later, I stopped at a grocery store after work. My cart wasn't even full. Some fruit. Chicken. Pasta. Coffee. Nothing expensive. The cashier smiled. That'll be $96.42. I tapped my debit card. Declined. I frowned. That's strange. I tried again. Declined. Embarrassed, I pulled out another card. Declined. Now people behind me were staring. The cashier looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I checked my banking app. My checking account balance. $47.18. I blinked. That couldn't be right. My paycheck had been deposited yesterday. There should have been over $8,000 in that account. I refreshed the app. Same number. Then I opened my transaction history. Wire transfer. $3,000. Wire transfer. $2,500. Cash withdrawal. $1,500. Online purchase. $876. Another transfer. Another withdrawal. Another purchase. Almost every dollar I'd earned. Gone. My knees felt weak. I could barely breathe. I rushed outside and immediately called the bank. After verifying my identity, the representative asked a question that made my blood run cold. "Are you calling about the transfers you authorized yesterday?" "I didn't authorize anything." Silence. "I'm sorry? I've been at work all day. Our records show you confirmed each transaction." "No, I didn't." The verification code was successfully entered every time. "What verification code?" "The one sent to your registered phone number." I froze. My phone never received any codes. Another pause. "Ms. Carter. The codes weren't sent to this number." I stared at my phone. "What number do you have?" The representative read it aloud. It wasn't mine. Someone had changed the phone number connected to my bank account. Without me knowing. Without my permission. Without triggering any warning. Someone had taken complete control. The bank froze every account immediately. But the damage was already done. Thousands of dollars. Gone. The representative apologized over and over. "We'll investigate. We'll do everything we can. We understand how stressful this is." None of those words gave me my money back. That evening, I drove straight to my parents' house. Not because I suspected them. Because I needed someone. Anyone. Mom opened the door and immediately noticed something was wrong. "Emma?" I burst into tears. Within minutes, everyone was sitting around the dining room table. Dad listened carefully. Mom looked horrified. Olivia looked concerned. She reached across the table and held my hand. "Oh my God. I can't believe someone would do this. I told you identity theft is becoming so common." I nodded through tears. "I know." She squeezed my hand tighter. "Don't worry. We'll figure this out together." Those words comforted me. Because they came from my sister. The one person I believed would never abandon me. The next morning, Olivia surprised me by bringing coffee to my apartment. "I couldn't sleep," she said. "I kept thinking about you." She helped me organize paperwork. Made lists. Suggested filing a police report. Even offered to recommend a lawyer. Looking back, she wasn't helping me investigate. She was making sure she knew exactly how close I was getting to the truth. Weeks passed. The bank investigation dragged on. The police filed reports. Life slowly returned to normal. Or at least, I pretended it had. Then one Friday afternoon, my manager called me into his office. His expression was different. Cold. Concerned. He folded his hands on the desk. "Emma, we've received some troubling information." My stomach dropped. "What information?" He slid a printed document across the table. At the top were 3 words that made my vision blur. Notice of default. Below it, my name. A credit card I'd never opened. Over $48,000 in unpaid debt. I looked up at him, completely speechless. "This isn't mine. I've never seen this account." He sighed. "I hope you're telling the truth. Because if you aren't, our compliance department is already asking questions." For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about stolen money anymore. Someone wasn't simply stealing from me. Someone was becoming me. And they were just getting started. Losing everything. People always say that when life falls apart, it happens all at once. They're wrong. It happens one small piece at a time. One bill. One phone call. One rejection. Until one morning, you wake up and realize there's nothing left to lose. That was my life. Every single day, I told myself things couldn't possibly get worse. And every single day, they did. After being placed on indefinite leave, I spent nearly every waking hour trying to clear my name. I filed disputes with every bank, every credit card company, every collection agency, every lender. The paperwork seemed endless. Every company wanted proof. Proof that I wasn't the one who had borrowed the money. Proof that I hadn't signed the contracts. Proof that I wasn't lying. How do you prove you didn't do something? No one could answer that. Every conversation ended the same way. Our investigation may take 90 to 120 business days. 90 days. I didn't have 90 days. My rent was due in 2 weeks. The little savings I had left disappeared almost overnight. Attorney consultations. Certified mail. Identity theft reports. Credit monitoring services. Replacement documents. Legal filing fees. Every dollar had a purpose. None of those purposes involved living. I stopped eating out. Cancelled every subscription. Sold my television. Sold my camera. Even sold the guitar I'd bought after my first promotion. I kept telling myself, things are temporary. You'll get everything back. But deep down, I wasn't sure I believed it anymore. One afternoon, I checked my mailbox. Another stack of envelopes. I almost threw them away without looking. Instead, I carried them upstairs. The very first letter made my heart stop. Final notice. Failure to pay may result in legal action. The second letter wasn't any better. A debt collection company demanded immediate payment. The third was from my landlord. My rent check had bounced. I read the notice 3 times. It couldn't be right. I knew I had scheduled the payment. Then I remembered. The bank had frozen every account during the fraud investigation. The automatic payment never went through. I called my landlord immediately. Please. I just need a little time. He sounded sympathetic. I know you've always paid on time, Emma. But the property owner isn't willing to wait. I'll have the money soon. I hope you do. Because if next month's payment is missed too, I'll have no choice. He didn't need to finish the sentence. I already understood. For the first time since college, I was afraid of becoming homeless. I lay awake every night staring at the ceiling. Sleep became impossible. Every sound outside my apartment made me anxious. Every phone notification made my stomach tighten. Every unknown number felt like another disaster waiting to happen. I wasn't living anymore. I was surviving. Then came another blow. I received an email from Human Resources. My employer had completed its internal review. I opened the attachment with trembling hands. The first sentence was all I needed to read. Your employment with the company has been terminated effective immediately. No accusations. No goodbye. No appreciation for 4 years of hard work. Just gone. I stared at my laptop screen until the words became blurry. Then I closed it. I didn't cry. Not because I was strong. Because I had cried so much over the previous month that I didn't have any tears left. That evening, Olivia called. Hey, little sister. Her voice sounded cheerful. Too cheerful. Mom says you haven't been answering your phone. I've been busy. Want me to bring dinner? I hesitated. Sure. An hour later, she arrived carrying Chinese takeout. She hugged me tightly. You look exhausted. I am. She placed the food on the table and glanced around my apartment. It looked different now. Half the shelves were empty. Boxes sat against the walls. Items I'd sold were gone. She noticed immediately. You sold your camera? I nodded. And the TV? Yeah. She frowned. You shouldn't have to do this. I forced a smile. I don't have much choice. She looked genuinely upset. Or at least, she looked like she was. Then she reached into her purse. I actually wanted to help. She handed me an envelope. Inside, $5,000. I looked up in shock. Olivia. I can't take this. Of course you can. I've been saving. You'll pay me back someday. I couldn't believe it. My sister, the one person standing beside me, was willing to sacrifice her savings for me. I hugged her so tightly I could barely breathe. Thank you. She whispered into my ear. That's what family does. I had no idea. The money she had just given me had probably been stolen from me in the first place. The following week, Detective Brooks called. I need you to come to the station. His tone sounded serious. When I arrived, several folders were spread across his desk. We've traced activity on some of the fraudulent accounts. I leaned forward. Did you find who did it? Not yet. But we found surveillance footage from an ATM. My heart started racing. He turned the monitor toward me. A woman wearing sunglasses withdrew cash. Her face wasn't visible. A baseball cap covered most of her hair. She wore oversized clothing. Almost impossible to identify. I'm sorry, he said. It's not enough. Hope disappeared as quickly as it had arrived. Another dead end. Another disappointment. Before I left, Detective Brooks asked one final question. Emma, has anyone close to you suddenly started spending more money than usual? The question caught me off guard. I thought about Olivia's new car. The designer handbag. The expensive watch. The luxury vacations she'd posted online. Then I remembered the envelope. $5,000. A voice inside my head whispered something I didn't want to hear. Could she really afford all of that? I immediately silenced the thought. No. I answered without hesitation. Nobody. The detective nodded. All right. If you remember anything, call me. I promised I would. As I walked out of the station, I hated myself. Not because I lied. Because for the first time, a tiny part of me wondered if I had. That night, I opened social media for the first time in weeks. Olivia had uploaded new photos. She was smiling on a beach in Miami, holding a designer shopping bag. Captioned, "Sometimes you just have to treat yourself." Red heart. I stared at the picture for a long time. Then I zoomed in. Around her wrist was a gold bracelet. It looked strangely familiar. My heart skipped a beat. I opened an old photo on my phone. A picture from my 27th birthday. I was wearing the exact same bracelet. The one I'd reported missing nearly a year earlier. At the time, I assumed I'd lost it while moving apartments. Now, I wasn't so sure. For the first time, the impossible thought entered my mind. What if this wasn't a stranger? What if the person stealing my identity had been standing beside me all along? I immediately closed the photo. No. I whispered to myself. Not Olivia. It can't be Olivia. But once a seed of doubt is planted, it never stops growing. And I had no idea that the answer I had spent months searching for was already sitting inside my own family photo albums. No one believed me. The moment you start suspecting someone you love, you begin looking at every memory differently. Every smile. Every hug. Every conversation. You start asking yourself one impossible question. Was any of it real? For days after seeing that bracelet in Olivia's vacation photo, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I told myself it was just a coincidence. Thousands of people owned bracelets that looked the same. Mine wasn't unique. It didn't prove anything. But my mind refused to let it go. Suddenly, little moments from the past began replaying in my head. The way Olivia always offered to organize my paperwork. The way she somehow knew details about my finances. The questions about my passwords. The questions about my credit score. The questions about my bank. At the time, they had sounded like concern. Now, they sounded like research. I hated myself for thinking that way. Olivia was my sister. She had comforted me when I lost my job. She had loaned me $5,000. She visited almost every week. She cooked for me. She cried with me. How could someone capable of all that also destroy my life? The two versions of Olivia couldn't exist together. One had to be real. The other had to be a lie. I just didn't know which one. A few days later, Detective Brooks called again. We've ruled out several suspects. That's good, right? It depends. What do you mean? The list is getting smaller. I swallowed. Have you found anything new? There are multiple IP addresses connected to the fraudulent applications. Can you trace them? Some of them. Where do they lead? He hesitated. Mostly public Wi-Fi locations. Coffee shops. Libraries. Hotels. Someone knew exactly how to cover their tracks. Whoever they were. They weren't careless. After hanging up, I made a decision. I drove to my parents' house. Not because I wanted to accuse Olivia. Because I needed someone to tell me I was losing my mind. Mom answered the door with a warm smile. Emma. You should have called. Dad was watching television in the living room. Olivia was already there. She looked surprised. Hey. What are you doing here? I just wanted to see everyone. We sat together for almost an hour. Normal conversation. Weather. Movies. Dad's garden. Mom's new recipes. I barely heard any of it. I kept watching Olivia. She laughed at all the right moments. Smiled naturally. Nothing about her looked suspicious. I started feeling guilty. Maybe I really was paranoid. Maybe trauma had changed me. Maybe I needed therapy instead of answers. Then something happened. Dad mentioned that he'd received an email warning about identity theft. Olivia immediately jumped into the conversation. You have to be careful these days. She looked directly at me. Some people don't realize how easily their information can be stolen. I forced a smile. I've learned that. She nodded sympathetically. I still can't believe what happened to you. Then she said something that froze me. You never did change those old passwords, did you? The room suddenly felt silent. I looked at her. What? She blinked. Oh. I just remembered you always reused passwords. I frowned. I changed all my passwords over a year ago. Her smile disappeared for half a second. Then it returned. Oh. I must have remembered wrong. Maybe. Maybe not. But one thing bothered me. I had never told anyone when I changed my passwords. Not even my parents. So how did Olivia know I had old ones? That night, I couldn't sleep. I opened my laptop and started searching through old emails. Hundreds of messages. Bank notifications. Receipts. Bills. Password changes. Then, I found something strange. About 18 months earlier, my email account had sent a password reset request. Not to me. To another email address. One I didn't recognize. I checked the recovery information. It had been changed. Then changed back 2 days later. I never noticed because I rarely checked those settings. Someone had briefly gained access to my email. Then covered their tracks. My hand started shaking. Whoever did this had planned everything. The next morning, I called Detective Brooks. I found something. He asked me to forward every screenshot immediately. An hour later, he called back. This is important. Can you trace who accessed it? We're trying. Will this prove who did it? Not by itself. But it's another piece. Another piece. I was getting tired of pieces. I needed the whole picture. A week later, my parents invited me over again. I almost didn't go. Something inside me felt different now. The house that had always felt safe no longer did. Dinner was quiet. Everyone seemed to be trying too hard to act normal. Finally, Mom broke the silence. Emma. We've been talking. I looked around the table. Dad avoided my eyes. Olivia stared at her plate. What about? Mom sighed. We think this investigation is consuming your life. I frowned. What? Dad cleared his throat. You've become obsessed. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm trying to prove I'm innocent. We know. Mom reached across the table. But constantly looking for someone to blame isn't healthy. I slowly looked toward Olivia. She finally spoke. Emma. I know you're hurting. But sometimes people become so desperate for answers. They start imagining things. There it was. Imagining things. My own sister was questioning my sanity. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You think I'm making this up? No. Olivia said softly. I think you're looking for patterns that aren't there. I stared at her. Longer than I ever had before. For just a moment. The concern disappeared from her face. It was subtle. Barely noticeable. A tiny smirk. Gone almost instantly. If I had blinked, I would have missed it. But I didn't. And for the first time, I wasn't looking at my sister. I was looking at a stranger. I stood up from the table. I should go. Mom looked worried. Emma. Please don't leave angry. I picked up my purse. I'm not angry. I looked directly at Olivia. I'm just starting to see things clearly. Her expression didn't change. She simply smiled. That same perfect smile she'd worn her entire life. I love you, little sister. I didn't answer. I walked out the front door without looking back. As I sat in my car, my phone buzzed. A message from Detective Brooks. Emma, we found something significant. I need you at the station first thing tomorrow morning. Don't discuss this with anyone. My heart pounded. For months, every lead had ended in disappointment. But this message felt different. I looked back at my parents' house. Through the living room window, I could see Olivia laughing with Mom and Dad as if nothing had happened. She looked completely relaxed. Completely confident. Completely untouchable. She had no idea that somewhere, hidden in a mountain of forgotten evidence, the first real crack in her perfect lie had finally appeared. And neither of us knew that one overlooked security camera was about to change everything. Justice, revenge, and a new beginning. The truth doesn't always arrive with applause. Sometimes it arrives in complete silence. The courtroom had never felt so quiet. Every seat was filled. Reporters lined the back wall with notebooks and cameras. Financial investigators sat beside federal agents. Friends, co-workers, and complete strangers had come to watch one of the biggest identity theft cases our county had ever seen. But I only saw 4 people. The judge. The prosecutor. My sister. And me. Olivia sat at the defense table wearing an expensive navy blue suit, her blonde hair neatly tied back. If someone had walked into that courtroom without knowing the story, they would have thought she was the victim. She looked calm. Confident. Almost bored. For months, she had believed she was smarter than everyone else. She had erased digital records. Used public Wi-Fi. Forged signatures. Manipulated family. Covered every trail. She thought she had planned for everything. Everything. Except one forgotten security camera. The prosecutor stood and walked toward the jury. Ladies and gentlemen. This case is not about a simple financial crime. It is about trust. It is about manipulation. And it is about a woman who spent nearly 2 years stealing not only money, but another human being's identity. A large screen lit up behind him. The security footage appeared once again. The jury watched in complete silence. There was Olivia. Walking into the self-storage facility. Unlocking the unit. Opening the blue storage box. Removing my passport. My social security card. My birth certificate. My tax records. And several unopened bank statements. Then. She smiled. Not at another person. At herself. Like someone celebrating a victory. The video ended. No one moved. No one spoke. The prosecutor looked toward the defense. Would the defendant like to explain why she was holding documents that legally belonged to her sister? Olivia's attorney stood. My client had permission. The prosecutor nodded. Excellent. He pressed another button. A second video appeared. Different camera. Different angle. This one showed Olivia leaving the storage unit. She looked around carefully. Then placed my documents into the trunk of her car. She wasn't helping me organize paperwork. She was stealing it. The prosecutor wasn't finished. Next came the digital evidence. Bank login records. Phone records. GPS data. Email recovery requests. Device fingerprints. Everything pointed toward one person. Olivia Carter. Every excuse her attorneys offered. Collapsed. One after another. Then Detective Daniel Brooks took the witness stand. He calmly explained how the investigation had unfolded. How the altered phone number redirected verification codes. How multiple fraudulent applications originated from devices connected to Olivia. How the financial records matched purchases she had made. Luxury vacations. Designer handbags. Jewelry. Her new SUV. All funded with money taken from accounts opened in my name. The prosecutor asked one final question. Detective Brooks. In your professional opinion, who stole Emma Carter's identity? Without hesitation, he answered. Olivia Carter. No emotion. No anger. Just the truth. For the first time since the trial began, Olivia looked afraid. Real fear. Not the fake sadness she had shown our parents. Not the practiced tears she'd displayed during interviews. Actual fear. Because she finally understood. There was nowhere left to hide. Then it was my turn. I walked slowly to the witness stand. My hands were shaking. Not because I was nervous. Because I had imagined this moment for almost 2 years. The prosecutor smiled gently. Emma. What did the defendant take from you? I looked at Olivia. Then answered. Everything. My savings. My career. My apartment. My reputation. My peace. My future. I paused. Then quietly added. And my family. The courtroom became silent again. I can earn money again. I can build another career. I can buy another home. But I'll never get back the years I spent believing I had done something wrong. I looked directly at the jury. The hardest part wasn't losing my identity. It was watching everyone believe the person who stole it. Even my parents lowered their heads. After closing arguments, the jury left the courtroom. The wait lasted 6 hours. 6 hours that felt like 6 years. Finally, the courtroom deputy announced the jury had reached a verdict. Everyone stood. The foreperson handed the paper to the judge. She adjusted her glasses. Then began reading. On count 1. Guilty. Count 2. Guilty. Count 3. Guilty. The word echoed again. And again. And again. Identity theft. Wire fraud. Forgery. Financial fraud. Possession of stolen identification documents. Money laundering. Conspiracy. Guilty. On every count. Olivia didn't cry. She simply stared forward, as if refusing to believe reality. Then came sentencing. The judge looked directly at Olivia. You did not steal from a stranger. You stole from your own sister. You destroyed the life of someone who trusted you completely. You abused family loyalty for personal gain. She paused. The court sentences you to 12 years in state prison, followed by restitution and permanent financial restrictions. The gavel struck. For the first time in nearly 2 years. The nightmare was over. As deputies placed handcuffs on Olivia, she finally looked at me. There was no apology. No tears. Only anger. You ruined my life. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I met her eyes. No. You ruined your own. Then she was gone. The courtroom doors closed behind her. And just like that, the sister I thought I knew disappeared forever. The hardest moment didn't happen inside the courtroom. It happened outside. My parents slowly walked toward me. Mom was already crying. Dad looked 20 years older. I'm so sorry, Mom whispered. We should have believed you. Dad's voice cracked. We failed you. 4 months. I had dreamed about this apology. I imagined yelling. Blaming them. Making them feel the same pain I had carried. Instead, I simply looked at them. I needed you. You chose her. Neither of them had an answer. Some wounds heal. Others become scars. Over the following year, everything slowly changed. The fraudulent debts were erased. My credit score was restored. The bank returned every stolen dollar it legally could. My former employer offered me my job back. This time, with a promotion. I accepted. Not because I needed revenge. Because I had earned it. I moved into a new apartment overlooking the Chicago River. For the first time in years, it finally felt like home. People often ask if I ever forgave Olivia. The answer surprises them. Forgiveness isn't pretending something never happened. It's refusing to let someone control your future forever. I don't hate my sister anymore. Hate is exhausting. But I also don't miss her. The woman I loved never really existed. She was just another identity. Olivia had stolen. Sometimes I think about that dusty security camera. A camera no one remembered. A camera that recorded less than 3 minutes of video. 3 minutes. That gave me my entire life back. People say justice is blind. I don't think that's true. Justice sees everything. Sometimes. It just takes a little longer. And if there's one thing this journey taught me, it's this. The biggest mistake a liar can make is believing they'll never be caught. Because the truth doesn't need perfect timing. It only needs one chance. And when that chance finally comes, No lie is strong enough to survive it.